What's going on, everyone? This is Devin from Anyone Outdoors, and this is a look at the Forester's tent made from a 3-meter by 3-meter tarp from Hammocks. I'm just giving you just a quick walk around of the shelter, just a quick 360, and you can construct this from either a ridge line or a pair of trekking poles. And I just want to make two quick notes here before we get into the setup. Is this flap here, I have this guide out to one of the pre-existing tent stakes, which wraps around the trekking pole, or front and rear respectively. The other thing I would like to make note of is the height of the trekking pole, and we'll get into how that plays into the initial setup or ease of setup in the next segment. All right, so we're going to start out with our tarp staked out on all four corners. This is as big as the tarp will get. As I walk around here, I want to point out that this edge of the tarp will become the rear edge or the front. I mean, it's the same on both sides, but let's just call it the rear. And the opposite end will be the front. Now notice these orange stakes here. Ultimately, this tarp will be staked out right here and right here on the sides of the shelter, okay? So one end from the corner on the front end of the tarp, one end from the corner on the rear side of the tarp. And as we walk around, we see the exact same thing, one end from the corner, orange stake pointing as an arrow, and same thing back here. Now I would like to make a couple of comments about these trekking poles. I have these extended to exactly 105 centimeters, and with this particular setup, that's a critical length, because we're actually going to use these trekking poles as rulers for our stakeout points. All right, so what we've done here, we've actually moved our stakes to the designated points. This would be, I guess, we're looking at the left side here, and the same thing on the right hand side. We're not quite at using our trekking poles to measure yet, but now we're getting closer to the actual footprint we're going to see when this thing is together. So now what we have to do is adjust for width. Now, to adjust for width, what we have actually done here is laid our trekking poles end to end. You'll notice that they're at a slight skew angle. More on that later, okay? But we're going to bring this tie-out point all the way in to roughly the end of this trekking pole, and we're going to do that on this side and the opposite side. Okay, so we've moved this side right here in based on the length of these trekking poles, both in the rear here and what will become the front. And another thing to note is the amount of slack now beginning to develop in the entire tarp. The next thing we're going to do here, let's take a look at this loop. This is the center loop that's one loop in from the outer edge of the tarp. So we need to set this up with a guy line to support the trekking pole. In order to do that, I'm just going to take one of the trekking poles and lay it like this, and we're just going to come out roughly to the end of this trekking pole and put our guy line stake in on the rear side here, and the same in the front. All right, so this is our lonely guy out stake right here at the end of the trekking pole. And notice we have maintained pretty much a straight line from one trekking pole all the way to the one way off in the rear. I've already positioned both guy line stakes here. So at this point, the underlying structure of the tarp is complete. And notice we haven't really done much with the tarp itself. We've just done a bunch of measuring with our trekking poles, again set to about 105 centimeters. All right, so we're about to install our first trekking pole. So I grabbed the loop there, one loop in from the outer edge of the tarp, and just fed the pointy end of the trekking pole right through that loop where it's got the collar on the just underneath the tip. I also just slipped a bowline knot over the tip of the trekking pole, and that kind of locks in the loop where the loop can't come off of the end of the trekking pole. I walk backwards to my guy out stake, and in this case I'm tying in a taut line hitch, which is an adjustable sliding knot. It's really ideal for guy out points. Alright, so what's going on here? So I'm grabbing a loop just to the right of the center loop and one to the left, and I'm joining those together with a single stake. This is where that 105 centimeters that the trekking poles were set to, this is why that matters, and it matters a lot. If you have the stakeouts, the right and left stakeouts too far apart, those loops won't meet, they'll be too far apart. Now, what I would like everyone to take notice of here is, you can see right here we have this sort of corner sticking out, and you'll have to forgive the shadows, but we have, you know, yet another corner sticking out right here, and we can go ahead and tuck those under the tent. But just as a reminder, I've done this middle stakeout point right here, kind of well in front of the trekking pole, so the trekking pole is kind of exposed on the top side, but kind of concealed on the bottom. Now you can see on what will become the front side of the tarp, it's a mess. It's not even put up yet at all. We're just going to repeat that same procedure back here. Alright, so here we go again. We're just doing the same thing that we did on the rear side of the tarp. Again, trekking pole tip through the loop, bowline slipped over the loop, and again walking backwards to the guy out stake. And once again, we're going to tie in a taut line hitch. Alright, so now we're going to get the rear tied out just like we did in the front. Again, a loop to the left and a loop to the right of the center loop on the tarp. I'm wrestling the wind a bit here. You can see me floundering around a little bit, but I will get the job done, as you can see here. Now we're going to tuck these tails here. We're going to get them underneath the structure as neatly as we can. All right, so the cool thing is the shelter is basically done here. These flaps on the end that kind of wrap around the trekking pole, we need to do something with those. Now, in good weather, you really don't have to guy those out. I will say though, if the temperature starts to drop too low, that's definitely an entry point for wind, and we'll go ahead and get those guyed out here. Now notice the exposure of the trekking pole. You can see part of it, but then it just kind of disappears. We're going to take this flap here and cross the trekking pole, and this is what we will guy out right here. All right, so now I need to deal with securing these flaps. What I'm going to do here is feed another pre-tied bowline knot through this center loop remember we did not stake the center loop down, just to the right and left of it. So I'm pulling the length of the paracord through the bowline to capture that loop. Now we're going to come out to the stake that was already there, and we're just going to tie in yet another taut line hitch like we've already seen a couple of times here. All right, now we're just going to do the exact same thing to the opposite end of the structure here. All right, so hopefully you can see the orange stake pointing to this middle tie out here. I leave this, the hook part here, just a little bit away from the ground so I can slide the flap that's opposite of the corner that's guyed out. I know that's sort of a mouthful there, but we can open that up here as I'm about to show. Okay, so this is our fully supported and guyed out forester's tent. As you saw, it's clearly a bit of a squeeze to get in this thing. Now, one thing to note is that the trekking pole can actually be moved to the center tie out all the way at the outer edge of the tarp, which is guyed out right here, and you can do a like a half closed forester's tent. For bad weather, windy conditions, there's just no getting around the benefit of a fully enclosed setup. Downside is that it's a pretty small footprint in there. I have to lay in these diagonally to be able to get a good ground pad and fully stretch out with a sleeping pad, but good for heat retention, in as much as these sil nylon tarps are going to be able to hold, which isn't really a lot. And I'm not actually sure that this is sil nylon. It may be, it may not be, but at any rate, it's very waterproof. I actually had this set up overnight. I had to tear this all the way down to do the video, and everything that was inside of the structure was bone dry. But that's a wrap on the video, and we'll see you next time on Anyone Outdoors.